She was a very good jazz drummer, small set drummer, and she had great technique. And yeah, she was a really good player, and she loved playing. So we'd have a couple of numbers for her to play. But after the first year or so, it was pretty much she was out in front and I was pretty much the drummer. Richard obviously loved his sister, but Richard was definitely in charge of the band and in charge of what Karen sang, in charge of what the music was. So I think that had something to do with Karen not feeling like she's in any kind of control. And her mom was very domineering. So I think it did take a toll on her.
Richard was just so good at such a young age that, I'm not surprised that Agnes, his mother, did not dote on him and champion him. And Karen came along. It wasn't, any match for him. He cast a really big shadow for a skinny young guy. And she thought he was the one with the real, musical talent and career. And Karen, of all the instruments to pick up, drums. And she would be, always practicing on her little drum pad, her pots and pans in the kitchen, and it annoyed Agnes. Richard was in there playing the piano. He's a serious musician, not playing around. And then when Karen and Richard started playing, again, it was all about Richard. But I believe that one of their very first record auditions, afterward, the producers wanted Karen and not Richard.
That even being brother and sister would add an extra added tension between, if Richard was supposedly the lead of the band and then Karen singing, she becomes a star. Of course, there's going to be that, a problem with that.
And at first, she was hiding behind the drums. Everybody told me that she did not want to come out from behind the drums. She did not want to stand in front of a mic and sing with nothing to do with her, hands and bony arms. And she was afraid. Her whole thing was about, she didn't feel like she was steering her own ship, that she had control over her life, even with tiny things. But a big thing like, how am I comfortable on stage behind the drums and I don't get to do that? I think it was a scar. And of course she did beautifully, but she never looked like a comfortable singer to me.
The goal for doing this project was for her to have something that she did on her own, separate, that having been so, I guess, controlled by and dominated in some ways by Richard's production, would it work? How would she be on her own? The way Richard was presented was not so much in a negative way as it was, well, curiosity. We knew how talented she was on her own, and that was the way we talked about him. Mostly that the idea of this album was to represent her separately from him. So it was inevitable that we'd be talking about that and every aspect of it. What were the great things about what he did with her, and what were the things that might have been limiting for her?
I don't think there was any rift between her and Richard over this, really. If I had to guess, I would say Richard probably said, go ahead, go do it, see what happens. Why not? But I don't think there was any competition between the two of them in any way. And Richard, he liked being in the studio, he liked writing, he liked, if he could be in the studio 24 hours a day, that's where he wanted to be,
But I do remember just the invisibility of Richard, that he wasn't around at all, and maybe it was deliberate. And I sensed that he might not have been too happy about, or nervous about it, or regretting that she felt that she needed to do something separately from him. All of those things were hypothetical to me because I didn't have a chance to talk about it, and I don't know. I was very curious about why the record didn't come out. And my guesswork at that time would have been that maybe Richard had enough influence that he either didn't like it or didn't think it was right for her career or their career, and became involved in the decision about why it didn't come out at that time.
Osborne wanted to sign Karen and not Richard. And Agnes, the dragon lady, as she was sometimes called, like, put her foot down or through the floor, or whatever it took. Absolutely not. You take both of them or you've got nothing. You know, you wonder how little Karen might have felt about that. You know, probably the first time in her life that the spotlight kind of moved over and focused on her. But that was not in the plan. And Agnes, you know, they became a duo. But Richard always had the preeminent position as the serious musician and the sort of the brains of the outfit in Agnes's mind. And I think Karen's too. I mean, she sort of gave into it. How much more could she fight? But she did it internally. She didn't do it for.
I don't think Karen felt like she was taking the spotlight from him, and she always gave him credit for his musical genius and for all of his arrangements. I mean, Richard wrote all these string arrangements for all of those albums, the Christmas album and all that stuff. It's pretty intense stuff, and he's definitely a musical genius. Yeah, he was definitely a prodigy. But I don't think he ever felt like he was in the background. You know, the way it was set up, Richard was still in the mix, you know, even though she was out front singing.
It's impossible to explain because it's magic, and she had it, and not very many people do. They can practice and they can take lessons, and we can all attempt to talk about it, but we know it when we hear it. And Karen's talent and her songs and her music transcended any limitations of a style, country or jazz or pop or whatever. She just had a very universal appeal.